evening. I know you're all having a lot of fun networking, but we'll do networking after. Again, welcome to ProductMe. Please grab a seat. And welcome to ProductMe. Please grab a seat. There's chairs or seating right in front. And if you want to sit, there's tables on this side too. Or you can stand. You can opt what you like. Please help yourself to the refreshments. There's coffee, water, food. Get yourself full. We have to finish the food before we leave. Grab a chair. We're starting. You can if you want. Or you can sit on the stage.
How shall we see? And on the edge. What? 40 or something? No, just look very young inside.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, just like saying, I can hear you.
The mic is and if you guys stop, it will record you. If you choke, it will record everything on the camera.
Can we just test?
I mean, if it's working, it's working.
Hi, good evening. Welcome to ProductMe. There are a few more chairs in the front, or there are few. Yeah, not much. But please do come to the front.
I think it doesn't get recorded. That's all. It won't get recorded, right? Or it's fine. Thanks.
Hi, good evening. Welcome to ProductMe. Thank you for making it. I know the traffic is really bad, but even then, I hope you guys did not get stuck in traffic, and I hope you had a good day and it gets better towards the evening. Thank you all for coming. I can see there are a lot of familiar faces that have come back maybe after a year and a half, and a lot of new faces. For how many of you it's the first time with ProductMe? Oh, quite a bit. Okay. This is always the case for almost all our events. So we have few familiar faces, we have few people who have come back. So just to give you a quick idea, ProductMe started off as a coffee meetup 3 years ago. Actually, October marks our third anniversary. November was our first event, but we curated the idea in October. Rashmi came to our first one. There's Tony, who unfortunately I think is not here. We've got another Tony too, Tony Pag. We have another Tony for the panel today, who were our first people who came for the event, and the rest is history. We've moved from coffee meetups to topic-based discussions to panels like these, to partnership events, and thank you to Amplitude for hosting us or partnering with us. Can we please try the next slide? So as you can see, we are not part of any big ecosystem. We are homegrown. We grew up from Dubai. We are about community-led learning and story sharing, and it's all about collaborations and connections. So you come in, you make your best friends, or you make partners whom you potentially would collaborate with. Two of the three founders of ProductMe are all people who came to the event and we kind of gelled and we became good friends. We have Rashmi, who's sitting here, and Zamna there,
Happy that.
who's happily eating. There is refreshments. We will start the panel just before that, 5 minutes. Sorry, can we do? So this is just a glimpse of how our event started. That's our first one, and we've grown ever since. We are hosting learning circles, and we have a podcast too. If you go onto our page, you would see our podcast. We have done two. So we have published two. We have published around two of them. We have Tony and Ajay Cyril, who has been our first set of speakers, and we have got more interesting stories coming up. We have something called as the Human Library, which we will start from Jan, or we did a version of it last time, like in September. We will be hosting another event in December. We are taking a break for November because I'm traveling. Rashmi has her master's going on, so we decided to take a break, and we'll be back in December with another interesting format of an event that is focused more on product. And by January, we'll also be hosting learning circles or lightning talks, which is basically focus programs. We've had 2 or 3 of them. We've had AI for product managers. I mean, how product managers can use AI in their daily life, and also something on product discovery, which was a mastermind program. Any questions, come reach out to me, Rashmi, or Zamna. If you want to volunteer, you want to be a part of the speaking sessions, you want to share your story, please reach out. We don't bite. We are friendly. And all of you are very serious. Why are you serious?
They're too tired. Dubai traffic.
I know the Dubai traffic is not that great, but let's start the event. We've got an interesting panel, and we've got Rashmi hosting. We will give the mic to Mustafa to talk a little bit about Amplitude, and then we start our evening. Thank you, guys.
Good evening, everyone. So first of all, I would like to thank ProductMe, so all the team, all the amazing panelists, and all of you who can actually make this tonight, because this event can be possible with all of you. So actually, this is the second time we are actually sponsoring this event, and we are very delighted. Not only to sponsor this kind of event, but also to have a conversations and to discuss with product leaders to really understand, the trends, but also, the challenges and so on. So, a quick introduction of myself. So, I am Mustafa Guechi. I am regional sales manager of Amplitude. I've been in the company for 4 years, and I've been actually supporting many companies, the likes of Better Homes, Tabi, Adnoc, Karim, or actually Talabat. We actually help them to leverage analytics to potentially drive growth. I am actually joined by 3 incredible team members. So we have Anne with us from the marketing team, who is actually there. We have also Emra, so from the sales team, and Itham, the partner director, who is actually based in Dubai. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview of Amplitude. So Amplitude is a digital analytics end-to-end platform that gives you a full visibility into the entire customer journey in a self-service capacity. So we're actually operating in 4 key pillars. This is where we actually help you notably on 4 pillars. So the 4 pillars are improving acquisition, retention, monetization, and operation efficiency. So basically how to scale analytics across the organization in a self-service capacity way. So I just wanted to spend maybe 1 minute just to explain how we do it. So as you can see, Amplitude comprises of 3 key elements. So you have the data. So everything starts obviously with data. So we are able to actually capture all interactions, all actions that your customer are doing across different sources, and we're gonna be able to actually store this data and sending them to any destination. Actually, governance to ensure data quality and privacy to keep it safe. So once you have a strong, foundation, it's time to actually use this data into insights. So asking questions about the customer behavior, understanding what they do, but also why they are retaining, why they are dropping off, and also combining with the session replay to understand where the frictions is happening. So now we have a good understanding of the customer behavior and the impact that your features are having on your products. It's time to actually use this insight to actions. So we will be able to actually test new features with web and product experimentation and feature flagging, and also deliver personalized experiences through audience targeting. So what is very interesting with this platform is that we combine everything in one to make it actually easier for everyone. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask my team or myself at the end of the session. So I'm sure that you will enjoy the session. So Rashmi, the floor is yours. Thank you.
So let's see. It's going to be tough with 2 mics, but let's see if it works. Okay, so I think Mustafa has set a very good tone to start with. He kind of stated what the current platforms are capable of and how much of data you can actually collect, to build your products. So today's discussion is going to be a bit around data, intuition, and let me introduce myself. My name is Rashmi Menon. I am a co-founder of ProductMe, and I'm also a product manager. I work at G42 Group, and I'm happy to host this panel with these amazing 3 gentlemen who will be introducing themselves because I think it's better they introduce themselves than me. But just to spice up the introduction, what I want to actually ask you guys is, you see, we can see there are powerful tools which kind of helps you gather data, kind of help you build a product. But how does intuition come into play, or how much do you use intuition in your day-to-day? How do you balance it? So over to you, Tony. Maybe you can start.
Thank you. My name is Tony Evans. I have done a number of different things in my career so far. So I started in advertising many years ago. I think there was a lot of intuition in those days. We didn't have a ton of data, so there's a lot of gut feel to the things that we did. Data came into advertising. I worked in media agencies for a long time, and then latterly I worked for Meta, and there's a lot of data in Meta, as people probably know. So marketing science was my area in Meta, building the marketing science practice, understanding ad efficacy and how it works. So we built a lot of platforms around that. That's all data, more than intuition, even though intuition comes into it quite a lot. These days, I find myself at this stage of my career, I consult with clients quite a lot around how people work better together around data. So making decisions, being better together in how they interact, and particularly how they use data to make those decisions over intuition sometimes is what I spend my time doing.
Amazing, good start. Thanks, Tony. So first of all, sorry guys, I have a little bit fever, so if my vibe is not, up high, sorry about that. But my cognitive skills are still valid. My name is Sercan, so I have overall 10 years of experience. I started my career as a digital marketing specialist. I built my own company in Turkey. Then I moved to small to medium-sized startups, and then I come to Dubai. I worked in Karim, then Kingmakers, then Aster with Rashmi, and now I'm working in Washman. So I started from the business side, but now I'm in the technical side. I'm head of growth analytics, and I'm leading the data initiatives. So I was a little bit luckier than Tony. I started my career with Amplitude, actually. We were using Amplitude as a main product analytics tool. So definitely I can give more example, but let me just pass microphone, and then we can move forward.
Thank you. Hi everyone, thank you for coming, and thank you guys for having me. I'm Moe. short for Mohamed Reza. I'm coming from Iran. I'm an ex-founder of 2 startups back in Iran. Now it's been 2 years that I'm in Dubai, and now I'm the head of product at Better Homes. I think many of you know Better Homes. Is the oldest real estate company in the UAE. And yeah, this is it.
I think it's better the speakers have this, and I will take this. Yes, that will be much more comfortable. So that was really great introduction. So maybe I will start with the data part. Okay. So Tony, you have actually worked with ads, and in ad effectiveness, you use a lot of data, right? But many markets are not that digitally matured. It's varying, right? So can you just give a bit more deeper dive when it comes to ad analytics? What did you use, and some examples how actually data helped you make decisions?
If I go back to the start of this, it sounds like a long time ago when we didn't used to have ads on mobile. And in Meta, like that time was about 2012, 2013, when mobile advertising started to be a thing. And so that was kind of, I think, a big change. The advertising industry understood how TV ads work. It had a formula for that. And so most people who were buying adverts would look at TV ads and look at second-by-second advertising, and they'd be like, well, on mobile, like what we need is for people to watch 30 seconds of adverts, right? Like what we knew from Meta looking at data is like no one's putting up with 30 seconds of anything on a mobile. Cognition is much quicker. And so we've got people with different levels of understanding that we had to build products for. Our measurement products that we looked to build to show that the ads worked or to help people understand how they work, we built a platform called Lift so that everyone could actually look at what was the impact of an ad when it was shown. Now, the different levels of maturity, you've got some people that you're talking to who are heavy data scientists, right? Who want to understand how your groups are made. This is the product of Lift is looking at controlled versus exposed experimental design. Like these people see the ad, these don't. What's the difference between the two in terms of their likelihood to buy the product? Data scientist cares about how you construct those groups. And so we had to be able to talk to data scientists about the construction of groups and the scientific kind of nature behind it. And then we also had a bunch of people who just like didn't care. They're just like, I just want to see the ads work. And so I'm happy to accept your way of doing things and for Meta to mark its own homework. And so we could engage with those groups in different ways. And what we found from doing that was the previous kind of concept, the bias that was there about whether ads worked or not. There was a lot of belief in clicks equals success online, right? As well as watching 30 seconds of an advert equals success. What we found very quickly from the experiments we were doing was that people who clicked on ads weren't necessarily buying products. In fact, over thousands of experiments, we found that like no one who was clicking on ads were actually increasing their brand awareness, were actually increasing their intent to purchase. And that was a great learning. So learning how mobile ads worked through that different level of people's understanding was a big step forward for us.
That's kind of interesting. In fact, that brings me to another question, and I think I want to actually give it to Sercan this time. Sercan, you have worked in MENA and Turkey.
Yep.
It's extremely crowded markets.
Yes.
Okay, and there's enough applications. There's a lot of data. Okay, I think there's excessive data. But have you had any experience where you use data to gain that extra leverage over your competition?
Yep.
That thing. And how did you reach that?
So there are actually different ways of looking at it. We need to frame it in a different way. So first of all is in the different stage of the startups, you need to be in the different stage of data as well. So data informed, data driven, and data led. So that's the first thing. First we put this as a note, okay? And the second thing is there's always data. So what you can do is you can define a correlated metric or any kind of KPI and guardrail metric, and you can still act according to that. Or different type of methodologies like Delphi method, right? So if I ask you what will be the USD Turkish lira currency rate, you will say something. If I ask to different people and then we take the average, then it's coming to the mean, right? But let me also give a concrete example that when we actually decided with intuition, it came from a founder himself. I was working in English Ninjas. It was a English tutoring app, so you were purchasing package and then practicing English. So initially, it wasn't a subscription product. We were purchasing actually a minute and then talking with the tutors. And we were giving 5 minutes free to all signups. and we didn't test anything. So at that time we were getting conversion rate, and there was nothing contradicting with this conversion rate to change the flow. But there was a key bottleneck, which was the supply side. So since like we were actually not getting any paywall, they were not adding credit card, we were giving everyone to 5 minutes, and they were tutoring with the tutors. And then what we said is actually the founder himself, he said, okay, this is not working, I cannot actually compensate that, so let's shift it. Let's give 10 minutes to the people who edit their credit card. So it's like adding a paywall, right? It was purely with the intuition, and actually it increased our conversion rate, and it was much more healthy in the marketplace side, because you cannot only think about the demand side, right? So there's a supply side as well, the cost side. That was one example. The second example was from Karim. So let me also give that one as well. So Karim has been operating in 14 different countries. So I was growth manager for 9 of them in the different times. So when they are launching a country, there are specific metrics that they are looking. So also Glovo is doing the same as well. Like for example, unemployment rate, free car, second-hand car volume, or like minimum wage, etc. These kind of things. Although you don't have all the market size like a thumb approach, when you define these metrics, you can have a greedy approach, right? Okay, if this is greater than X and this KPI is less than Y, then I can open the country. Let me also give the global one as well, because it's pretty interesting, and I found it in a medium blog of the founder himself. He told that, he was writing it, so we launch a country, global, if these 2 KPIs are met. One of them is minimum wage divided to average order value. And if there are already 2 players in the market, we are not opening the country. So if there's like a one leader, and this is the segmented for all the other ones, and if the KPI is high, like minimum average order value, low divided to, minimum wage divided to average order value, then they are opening. So again, like these kind of examples we can take as a consideration, but still there's always data. So I will also talk about different things in the upcoming questions, but let me just give microphone to Mo. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks. So you have led me. The next question should be to Mo. So, right now I kind of got a view to, how it happens in big companies, crowded markets. But whenever I look at Mo, given his background, like you've been in real estate, healthcare, and especially 0 to 1, 0 to 3 stages, okay? Mo, I just want to understand how you use data to actually shape your product vision, and what do you drive, what to build further?
Okay, you said that. I have been working in startups mostly. My current job is also, it's a big company, but we started as a startup within that company. So for me, in my experience, the product world is a very uncertain world. I cannot predict anything, I can say that. Many ideas that I was thinking that it will be a killer, it turned out to be just a mess, and many ordinary ideas turn out to be a very good idea at the end of the day. So for me, the main thing is mitigating risks. So there are a couple of risks around the product, and I'm always trying to assess these risks and try to mitigating them as much as possible. Whoever has done training, they know that for diversifying your portfolio sometimes. So there are a couple of strategies. My strategy always has been 80% trying to make a strong foundation, invest in 0 risk areas, 20% in high bet areas. So it's off track, but I will connect the dots. So for me, the main thing is, there is a concept named product sense. Product sense is similar to intuition, but it's not intuition. You need to do your homework, you need to read a lot, you need to work a lot, you need to talk to many users, you need to talk to many thought leaders. To get to that level of product sense to make the decision, you need to work with data as well. So coming back to a question, I see data as a source of this product sense. I use this product sense plus experimentation to move forward in an uncertain world. So I hope it's getting clear.
That's interesting. In fact, I'm much more aligned to you. So, especially when it comes to data, right? When Prerna told I have to run a panel for data, I was like freaked out. Okay, because me as a product manager, I don't know how many product managers are here. Nice. What about data? Anybody from data side? One. Okay, two. So at least for the product managers, we know that we can state, theoretically data is everything, anything and all. But when it comes to really execution, I don't know whether we have the time to go through. We are reliant on things and sometimes we just need to rush things up. And there's a lot of demand coming, pushbacks coming from all the stakeholders. So, all this, what especially Tony and Sercan spoke, went somewhere above my head because I never get chance to do. I think it's a very, a very specific job for somebody on a data science part or a marketing science part. Okay. So actually my next question, I want to slip into the intuition bit, because what happens in product is most of the time, even if data is there, at least for the 0 to 3 product managers, we tend to rely on our intuition. So the question is for you. Okay, I'm going to touch upon that intuition bit. When you worked in startups, there was very little data. And that's always the case in B2B also. Can you give some example or, a bit more elaboration on, did intuition play a role then when the data was minimal to make your decisions?
Again, I see it as a combination. So product sense or product knowledge is a combination of data and intuition together. I think because you might have a lot of data, but you need to make an interpretation of that data, and you need to know everything about that product to understand that data. So again, it gets back a step back to your product sense. I think in startups, the data part is very limited, but you have a lot of users to talk to. So, we have a lot of data now, but I still have that habit of being engaged with users. In our product teams, we have a routine of at least 3 hours of user engagement, and that's more effective than data, to be honest, for us. Then after getting that data, we can come to getting that qualitative data. We can come to our quantitative data, get some ideas to define some new experiments, run that experiments and see the results out of it, and then we can decide what will be the next step. So yeah, for me, it's always qualitative data, very important as a product manager.
That's interesting. So next, what I want to do, I want to actually ask Sercan the question. So when I was in Aster, whenever we used to go for, the next release, my feature list, he will be like, Rashmi, but the data doesn't say that. And we used to always have this kind of tension. He's like the owner of data. So, I want to challenge you. You have worked in such complex environments. Was there even one decision in any of those organizations made, despite what the data told, they went for the intuition and it worked?
Let me think. Again, so as I mentioned, in all my experiences, I actually joined after product market fit. Okay, it means that minimum 5,000 customers are there, they are retaining, etc. So I always had the data, but intuition was always there as well. So as Mo mentioned, talking with customers is one of the key activities. I didn't have such a case that data was showing something and intuition led something else. Most probably it would happen more in the before product market fit stage, like product solution fit stage or product user fit stage. User fit means like only 100 customers you are targeting and you're trying to find if there is any user who is using your solution for their problem, right? But again, also there are some frameworks that you can utilize, right? So we were also discussing in Aster as well. One of them is the confidence meter from Itamar Gilad. Okay, so this guy, there's an amazing thing, just like you guys can Google as well. It shows that, so in the rise, in the prioritization matrix, it's giving the confidence. It starts from 0.0 actually, then 0.1, 5, 75, 1 to 10, okay? It's not linear, okay? And the thing is, okay, so if the data or like if intuition is only coming from the market is 0.5 or like 1, etc. But if it's data is showing it's 2. If experiment shows it, it's 5. So this is the confidence and actually the intuition level that you need to jump in. So definitely intuition should be there, because maybe Tony can also jump in as well. There are so many frameworks such as Black Swan, etc. that data don't dictate everything, right? So like COVID. Okay, which data showed that COVID will happen? So I had always these discussions, again, like when they were launching countries in Karim, always the VP of revenue was deciding the decision, not VP of data, right? It's already showing that intuition is key, but he was led by data. That's the thing. And that's how you can actually overcompete your competitors.
That's very interesting. Now that leads me to another question, and let Tony take that up. You have led very big teams in Meta, right? So I kind of want to understand, how do you create an environment where, because look, see, you were head of marketing sciences, okay? So I'm sure you were using the best models, best methods, everything. But how did you create that environment to enable the teams to still utilize intuition where it's needed?
I think the first thing is understanding that like no one's perfect, right? Like we can't be right about things all the time. And that's got to be a first kind of step within the team, accepting that's going to happen. Understanding mental models and how people build these things, and where there's an element of bias that comes into them, or when there's a possibility of bias. So Charlie Munger, if people know Charlie Munger, he's Warren Buffett's, died sadly early this year, but like Warren Buffett's right-hand guy. He talks about mental models, which is like if you're an economist, you're gonna apply an economist way of looking at a problem. If you're a mathematician or a statistician, you'll apply that kind of lens. And so as I hired people into the team, like helping them to understand, if you've only ever known data science and made decisions on data, that's only one way of looking at the problem. What you need to be able to do is to understand these different forms across the team of different people to solve the problem properly. So that's definitely a way of like looking at intuition. The other way is getting people to understand like the psychological process that we all go through, which is just evolutionary, right? If anyone's read about Kahneman, Daniel Kahneman's work, Daniel Kahneman, like great book if you haven't read it, Thinking Fast and Slow, that talks about like our processes. This is an evolutionary thing, right? We're the products of a million or a few million years of evolution. We're very good at having shortcuts to save ourselves time, right? So Kahneman talks about like system 1 and system 2. System 1 thinking, which is very intuitive, like quick, here comes a tiger, run away, I'm not going to get eaten. And the system 2, which is much more, instead of using your amygdala, much more about the prefrontal cortex, getting into deep, proper thinking. If you can help people understand when they're in that system 1 versus system 2, you can get to better decisions over things. So within the team, a blend of people who look at things from a different point of view, being able to get those people to relate to each other so you can actually solve the problem together and understand when they're operating in one type of thinking as opposed to the other.
That's very interesting. But look, see, from a team perspective, right, still when I go with my gut decisions, right, it's risky. You know, people really don't want to actually keep their opinion, even if they feel that, okay, that's the thing. Because like something could happen to their job, or, you know, the fear of getting exposed or being the black sheep, you know, all these things come in. How did you help your team members to actually have a safe space to follow their gut or keep their opinions in front, even if the data showed something else?
I'm going to answer that in two ways. I think that there's a psychological safety that you have to be able to create, right? Like I said a second ago, no one's perfect. I might have thought that I made a lot of right decisions when I was in my 20s, and I've come to realize like how wrong I am, like as I got older, how wrong that process of thinking was, right? The Feynman quote, like I'm smart enough to know that I'm dumb, right? Like, and I think the older you get, the more you realize that there's a lot of different ways in gray areas of looking at problems. And so being able to create amongst the team, the fact that things will go wrong and you'll make wrong decisions, right? Like not jumping any managers in the room, right? Not jumping on people and firing them for making the wrong decision. Now, if someone makes the wrong decision all the time, that's a problem. It's something you've got to address. The hiring process was where I like to address this as much as I could. So I'm asking people the questions during the hiring process about how they think about things. Can they tell me about a time they were wrong and what they learned from doing that, and what they've changed as a result? If someone can't tell me what they've been able to change or why they knew they were wrong and what they would do differently next time, then that's an issue. I think the last point on this, if you don't mind, just one more thing, which I think is important, that I never used to do, but I wish I did. Like when things are going really well, there's as much to learn from that. We tend to look at the bad times, right, and say, like, I can learn from things that I did wrong. But things that are going really well, what is it that we were actually doing right during that time of things going well, rather than just thinking, this is great, let's carry on. Like, what is it we're actually doing to make the right decisions during those good times as well as the bad? That's something I never used to do, and I wish I did more of.
That's very interesting, and thank you for touching upon mental models and biases. Because when I actually put data in intuition, until we speak about bias, it's not complete, right? Because our intuitions are normally biased. And I want to start again, Tony, since you got that topic, I'm going to have the next question also for you, okay? Whenever we are looking at data, right, there could be so much of cultural biases which come. How can we prevent it or have some kind of tool around it? I know you touched upon a few things, but can you elaborate a bit more on prevention of biases when looking at data?
I don't know we can prevent bias. I think the most important thing is being aware of our biases, right? The more aware I am of my biases, the less chance I've got of like just being led by one or other of them. There's something like 185 or 6 different biases that academia have found. There's probably, I don't know, like 17 to 20 that we kind of know about and think about most of the time. The cultural dimension, if we're talking national cultural, like that's fascinating, right? So being a Brit, as you can tell from my accent, the way that I see the world is different from the way that somebody who comes into the world in Asia might see the world. And so by that, I mean, my formative years, like the first 3 to 5 years of my life, in my opinion, have a massive impact on how I engage with the world. How I view hierarchy is a very good example of that. Am I prepared to speak up? As a Brit, like we've got this thing, power distance, like one relationship with authority. I'm happy to challenge my boss and to talk to my boss about things. I expect the same thing from my team. I expect my team to be able to do that and try and encourage that environment, right? Working with a client recently in Asia, like it took me quite a while to actually twig the fact that like they're not going to say no to me because they see me in the hierarchy in a different position, right? And so that gives me 2 problems. I can't necessarily get them telling me what they really think. And the other problem I've got is that they would hide things that are wrong. And so when I'm trying to get to them and say, look, it's completely safe, they're still trying to cover things up. And it's like, I can see that's wrong. I can see it again and again in the data. But they're not willing to turn around and say, this is the issue because of the cultural dynamic. Now, this is particularly important, I think, in this region, in UAE, because we've got so many different people, like so many different people. In London, I might have mainly Europeans, right? Here, we've got so many different cultures who relate in different ways. And that's why that work with teams, I think, is going to be the next phase that we go through. Like how people relate to each other better and understand each other better. I know it's a long answer. I just want to touch on the tools, if you don't mind. Like there's a great tool. Hofstadter is one. Hofstadter Insights. Grab me afterwards, and I'll give you a link to it, where you can look at the different dimensions in people in your team. The other one is Erin Mayer, who does this cultural kind of global smart way of looking at different people in the team. I've used that like really, really well with people to get them to understand each other. I've had people from Russia in my team and people from England in my team. The English are pretty indirect in the way we talk about stuff. Russians are super direct. When you map all these people together and you can look at them and the Russian turns around and is like, I thought you were just being evasive. And the English person's like, I thought you were just being rude. And it's like, no, it's just the way that we are, right? It's the way that we are within our culture. And those kind of tools are brilliant at bringing people together.
That's very interesting. Now that you have touched upon a very macroscopic level, outside the tools, outside what we are able to achieve from the dynamics part, I want to actually redirect the next question to the person who always has a tool for everything. Okay, so Sercan, the question is for you. Okay, have you used any tool or processes to avoid biases from an analytics perspective?
So tools are all the same, usual suspects, right? Like Amplitude, Product Analytics, Google Analytics, these kind of tools. So, and also your transactional database. So the data flows from different spaces, qualitative data flows as well, and then you make a decision. But as Tony mentioned, that's the key thing. It's like a philosophical as well. So you need to understand how you are creating the hypothesis and how you are asking questions. So there are like really nice tools and quotes that I want to actually give. There is like a book, Trustworthy Online Experiments. It has been written by 4 veteran experts from Netflix, Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn, I guess. So VP of data science, something like this. It's crazy. So like the H index, their article index this is crazy. Okay, so first of all, like definitely we should send the link. It starts with this one. Okay, it's the CEO of Netscape. If we have data, let's look at the data. If all we have opinions, let's go with mine. So that's the thing. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is from Edward Deming, again, veteran of quality and engineering, who built Japan and Toyota, all the Kanban system. Without data, you are just another person with an opinion. First, like we took these into our mind. Okay, then the things that Tony mentioned, cognitive biases. Again, there is cognitive bias codex. They can Google it. 180 or something biases are there. It's crazy. That's one thing. And then another article from Harvard, hidden traps in decision. One of the very important one, which I also apply to my life, is the framing.
Framing.
Okay, so the question that you ask will change your action, and also it will change your direction. Let's say, are we growing? Okay, we are not growing. But is market growing? Then okay, market is not growing. Or like there's another competitor in the market. I said, so you get my point. When you ask like 5 whys, then actually you are getting the real cause. That's one thing. From analytics perspective, maybe I can tell like several things. Like slice dicing is one key thing.
Yes.
Understanding uplift, as Tony mentioned. So it's key. There is again amazing blog page from Uber. So they explain about their experimentation platform, how they automate all the experimentation tests according to the KPI that they are checking. Like if it's continuous metric, they are doing another test. If it's ratio metric, etc. So you need to apply these, and you need to look the distributions. Like so, if you work with average, it will actually create a bias, definitely. So you need to look at the high value customers, especially in this region. Like for example, there are Unas and Washman. I'm working in Washman. There are some, like a first orders which are really high. And so you need to identify these before looking the average. So that's the key. So you can use these mental models plus science, and then you can act accordingly. That's my goal, or how I operate.
That's interesting. In fact, maybe after this session, we have to send a list of links and all these names they have mentioned across. I think that's quite interesting. So, maybe I should actually ask a much more simple question now for us product managers. So I'll direct it to Mo as usual, okay? Mo, how often do we get led by biases? What's your experience?
Yeah, there are no studies, I think, checking how often we fall into biases. But yeah, I always say my product managers that a product manager should be humbly decisive, because most of the times we are wrong, at least in my experience working in highly uncertain environments like startups. Yeah, there are a lot of biases that we know there are, and there are a lot that we don't know exist. I think by being self-awareness plays a key role here. A product manager first, I think it should be a product manager should be self-aware of the way they are thinking about everything. A big bias that I think me as a product manager I have is applying the knowledge that I get from one product space to another product space. So I might think that I have read a lot of books, I know a lot of frameworks, I have been in XYZ markets, and now I'm in a new market or a new product space, and I can apply those knowledge here. And in many cases, it's not possible, because each product space has its own specific characteristic that we need to be open to that. One example that I have, a recent example in Better Homes. So we streamlined a lot of things in our secondary market product, and we just moved to the off-plan. Off-plan is highly uncertain. There are a lot of hype around it. And we applied the knowledge that we got from secondary market to the off-plan market. And the result was 20% plus of our leads wandering in the pipeline that we just created for them. We did a lot of discovery for that. We went through a lot of sessions with our agents, with our customers, but sometimes it doesn't work. So we should be highly open about our assumptions about everything, and experimentation is key. I think nothing is certain in the product world.
That's interesting. So experimentation is key to avoid biases or at least come out of it. That's very interesting. So, how this whole conversation has progressed is that I kind of like we started with the data part, the intuition part, the decision, the bias part. Okay, but let's think a bit about the future. Okay, now everybody is talking about that with the advent of a lot of technology. I won't mention that technology with the A and a I because everyone mentions it, but one of it. Okay, how do we? So let me say this way: there's a lot of tools which help you do things. The world is becoming extremely connected. Integrations are becoming extremely easy. Okay, but how do an individual in future still maintain the intuition, okay, or still maintain that gut, okay, attention to details, while things are becoming so quicker and faster with the tools and data available for them? So I would like each of your perspective on this. Maybe we could start with Mo, since you have the mic, and then we can come.
Okay. Yeah, I think the first principles are the same. Working on your product knowledge, experimenting, this has not been changed from, 100 years ago. There's a book in 1975, I think. I don't remember the name. It's from Fred Brooks, I think. And there is a famous quote from that, "Plan to throw one away." It's about experimentation, and it's before the internet era, I think. It was the beginning of the internet era. So I think the first principles will not change. As technology evolves, it gives us more tool and more exposure to data. So and more exposure to ideas. So we are just now more resourceful than before. But the first principles that we need to apply on all these resources remain the same. If you rely too much on data, on AI, that hallucination is a hot topic in Gen AI. So AI has its own biases as well. So I think being aware of the first principles will help you navigate through all these technology changes that we see every day.
Interesting.
Yes, so there are two things that I want to mention. One of them is what's happening at the moment in the market. So I want to quote from CEO of Hugging Face. Hugging Face is the open data science library, so you can interact, you can use, you can embed it. It's crazy, okay? The current machine learning revolution has been enabled by the Cambrian explosion of Python open source tools. Cambrian is from evolution cycle. So it just says that it's kind of like when the mammals are created, they evolved from the previous, animals. So it's giving the referral to that one. So we are in a stage that it's explosion. Why? Not AI, the open source tools. So this is how it's also with the AI as well. It started with the first article from Google, Transformers. Then it has been built. So at the moment, what I can say is, what I can suggest actually, just definitely be more technical and play with these kind of tools. So if you don't play with these open source tools, then somebody else will. That's always the same thing that people are mentioning, right? Somebody else will take your job, not the AI. That's one thing. But this is key. Not just you make, a dolly picture, etc. No, what is the library that you can automate the Facebook, visuals. So Google has also open libraries. Robin from MMM, from Facebook. So you can play with these kind of open libraries. The second thing that I want to mention is, I'm not sure about it, but so since you mentioned how we can protect this becoming human and the intuition, right? I don't know if it will continue like this in 50 years. Because I was reading one article and it was talking about digital identity, okay? So when my customer ID is being created, it's my identity, right? Myself actually. And there are some data, I purchased something, etc. is being accumulated. What if this identity becomes, fed with much more data and make a decision on behalf of me? Then are we going to talk about the same biases? That's a philosophical, a questioning in my mind. Sometimes I'm thinking about it, but definitely, especially for the commerce, it's being led by, like a same cognitive biases, same cognitive decisions, which is coming from evolution. But what will happen next, I don't know.
That's deep. Okay.
No, I can't remember the question. I think I can. I think, like for those of us who lived through the digital transformation, right, like at the past however many years, the thing that we got wrong most, in my belief, was not focusing on people. We focused on product and putting product first over how people kind of work together, right? Like around AI, AI is another tool that people will need to work with, and how we understand our processes as humans around that new tool will make the difference between people who survive and those who don't within that kind of future world. And so the integration of that, like looking at people, putting people in the process to understand it. Adaptability is the key thing, right? Like if you're hiring for people in this space, looking for people who actually know how to adapt, because this space is changing really, really fast and will change incredibly fast again over months, let alone years. And so like adaptability to the new things, putting people first are going to be the most important things.
That's very interesting. And, I think that was my last question for the panel. But before I open up for questions, okay, I just wanted to ask a bit about the book you're writing. Are you going to have all these things there?
So I'm not, thank you for bringing it up. I'm comfortable now, I guess, talking about the book because it's coming to launch. So I'm writing about AI and leadership. The book will come out in January or Feb of next year. There's a bunch of stories around these things about how people didn't change through digital transformations and what they need to do now. But my contention is that the job of leadership and the job of product management and those kind of things doesn't actually change. It's applying resources to a problem at hand and using people to do that. So thank you for bringing it up. And yes, follow me on LinkedIn if you'd like to see the book Generation AI when it comes out in a couple of months' time.
Looking forward. So is there any audience question? Anybody? Please.
Hey, thanks for your time. I wanted your reaction to a statement that I've been just trying to write for the last 20 minutes. It's kind of a bit recursive when we think about intuition and data. So I was trying to express it and I wanted to hear what you think. So I wrote down, intuition is data on lack of data. Maybe we can call intuition anti-data, like gravity and anti-gravity, and matter and dark matter. It doesn't mean that there is no data. So yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on this, if it gets you moving.
I like it.
Very philosophical.
Yeah, exactly.
Aren't the ends all philosophy?
Yeah, very nice.
I don't know, what it makes me think about is like the processes that we have inside our brains, right? Like they are way, way more powerful than AI. Like AI is what, like possibly jellyfish level? People say a dumb cat, like that kind of level at the moment. The volume of data that we have, I think as humans within our brains of ability to do stuff is going to be way ahead for like a very long time compared to what machines are actually capable of doing. And I believe probably for a decade or so, it will definitely be that way. So I don't know, it was a very philosophical kind of statement. I don't know how else to answer that.
I'll try to refine it. So intuition is recognizing that we don't have the necessary data and then designing an experiment to surface it. So that's what I meant, right? The intuition is knowing that you might be missing something and then trying to design an experiment to surface the data. It tends to come from an understanding that everything is data. It just can't be, I have all the answers in this piece. So that was, yes, in a more philosophical way, which I thought would be a bit more thought-provoking. But yes, that's a bit more practical. It's just you don't have all the data. That's the intuition first. It explains itself in a customer hypothesis or a business hypothesis, but isn't it just that at the core?
So both of your statements, the second one is pretty practical and it's pretty valid. It's a nice one. The first one is philosophical. And there is like one philosophical framework that I can suggest. Clock versus watch. Sorry, cloud versus watch. So one of them is very random. The other one is very certain, right? So I don't think intuition is no data. It's a partial data, so you're trying to, as Mo mentioned, I'm trying to talk with the customers, right? He's trying to build the data. But also there are some cases that the first statement is correct as well. If I decide without any data, then it's anti-data. But most of the case, you don't have luxury to do that in the business. It's really hard. If you are Steve Jobs, yeah, you can do it, but like...
Cool. Thanks.
Any other questions?
There you go. Yeah.
Hi there. So, more than 10 years ago, I was part of the launch of a giant e-commerce called Zara.com. And Zara actually went through various iterations of layouts and designs for the e-commerce. And data showed or indicated that they should go with one design. But intuition, or what they call like a gut feeling or even an emotional pushed the team to launch the layout and design of the e-commerce that you see today. And since then, many e-commerce around the world have copied that kind of formula that Zara created in online retail. So my question is, when data is telling you that this is the way, but your intuition says, no, we're going in a complete different direction, and it turns out, for whatever reason, they were right, how can, in this case, for me, it's almost like intuition triumphed on top of data. So how do you feel about that?
The Steve Jobs example is a really good one. You know, look at the data. I think he talked about this, that if you ask people what they wanted in a phone, right, like in the surveys that they did, it certainly wasn't the iPhone, right? Like if you looked at what that product would actually look like. And so there's definitely an element of this. The data side of me and wanting to rely on data is because I know that I'm more likely to be correct in my own mind if I've got enough of that data there. That intuition process, and that's because that's the way my brain works. My wife, for instance, in fashion for many years, like she would never rely on data for these kind of things because you can't in fashion. Like in Zara, you can't for a lot of these processes actually rely on the data for it. There is the wondrous nature of a brilliant mind that can come up with that stuff. Personally, I'm not comfortable enough with it. And it goes back to the mental models. It's like, how likely am I to be right if I follow my gut? Right? If I just believe that I'm right all the time, like, why is that? I don't trust myself enough to do that. I've got to think through in several different ways in order to be more likely to be right or less likely to be wrong. So it's just a personal way that I have to approach it. But people do, you're right, get it right sometimes, knock it out the park. I wonder if we hear enough of those stories of when they got it really wrong, though.
Yeah, I can contribute as well. So let's think about the viral Dubai chocolate, right? Is there any data which is showing that this chocolate will be viral and everybody will, crave about it? No, right? But it became viral and now like the sales are crazy. So that's the same. But in the end metric should be very scientific. So the input of the experimentation can be anything. That's the case. Intuition, okay, Zara designer or whatever, like their marketing guru, etc., says that I think that X, Y, Z, and if we do this manipulation, then Y metric will change in the short term or long term. This is how they do it, right? They definitely check the revenue or maybe, I don't know, some kind of brand KPI. But we shouldn't dictate data for creating hypotheses. If you are creating a valid hypothesis, which is very scientific as well. If you Google like how to create a valid hypothesis, like, okay, a cohort, reproducibility, manipulation, single manipulation, and the KPI to follow. That's the whole logic.
Hey guys. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Just two quick questions. I know that we talked a lot about intuition, so I'll just put my thought. I had a separate question though. I just want to maybe highlight my thought of intuition essentially is that intuition is also data. It's just not data in Excel sheet. That's about it, right? It's more about data of a multimodal data that you can get from just looking around, experiencing and all the stuff. So that's also data. So if Steve Jobs is processing the data, that is actually intuition because he's just able to consume a lot more multimodal data than just Excel data. I mean, that's just my feeling of it, right? So my question essentially was, I know that we are all talking about AI and all stuff. I somehow feel that, and I wanted to get your opinions. I might start a pitchfork, a competition between tech and product. I somehow feel that AI is super cool innovation, is going to benefit product more than technologists, right? What are you guys' thoughts on that?
You've given us a really controversial question.
I think you are the product manager. Repeat again.
Come on.
Can you repeat the final question, the final part? I wasn't just following that.
My final question, my point was that the advent of AI and the growth of AI is, I somehow feel that is going to be super, super beneficial for the product teams, product managers, than software developers, technologists, all this stuff, right? That's just, what do you guys feel about that?
I can answer it.
You got to tread carefully in these waters. I know.
I think we need to look at the use cases. Coming up with good product ideas, definitely it would work because our mind is always anchored in some area. And there are some other areas that we cannot say, but let's say non-biased, non-trained, fine-tuned generative AI can think broadly in that area. It's like having a beginner's mind when you just start doing something. So I don't know if it's going to be more beneficial for product managers comparing to software engineers, because they can also get with some good ideas to develop effective, feasible, efficient solutions. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know. But just adding something to that anti data that, I don't know his name, my friend. Yeah. I think it's very true. Having pure intuition, it means applying chance, playing dice. So if you have no data at all, and if you know nothing, and your gut says that, okay, choose option 1 over option 2, it's 50-50. This intuition, I think it's the same product knowledge or knowledge in that area. You need to do your homework, get engaged with everything you can from data to customer. So I really don't believe in the distinction between intuition and data, because these two are complementary together. And intuition part is the non-quanti, I don't know the word for that, but non-dataized or something, yes.
Qualitative data.
Yes, we haven't got it quantitatively yet. So it's the same. It's all data and it's all knowledge.
First of all, are you product leader or tech leader? Tech. Okay. So
now you know the question.
So is your direct reports are already using CodeGPT? None of them. They're not using. Okay, so like I have friends in Turkey, and they are telling me that like they are using and their performance increased by 30%. But at the same time, there are some articles which is telling that the code quality decreased, right? So I'm coming from business and I become more technical. So I'm using Visual Studio and CodeGPT. So it removed the friction to check my Excel or like Stack Overflow. I just do Control-I, asking write me KNN model. It writes and then I change. It's crazy. To be honest, it's crazy. So it will help the tech and the product as well. But which one will have the more benefit? I don't know. So I think it's about the person and all the business cases, right? That's the thing.
I'm going to be very diplomatic as well. Like, everyone wins in the world of AI, in my opinion. It's very difficult to see jobs that aren't going to be enhanced by this technology, right? So I think everyone wins. I think that some people tend to think, well, now I can code, right? Because it's now easy to build an app with AI, and I wasn't a programmer before. So those software engineer guys are going to go away, and we're going to have their jobs. Don't think it's going to happen, because the process of building an app is way more complicated than just writing a bit of code, right? So I think everyone wins in this world. I don't think there's going to be one. There'll be some that benefit maybe a bit more than others, but frankly, everyone's going to do all right.
Just one thing, maybe.
Yes.
So the impact of AI will be exponential rather than we compare with the industrial revolution, because it was impacting only blue collar workers or like a heavy work, but now it's impacting everyone: comedian, artist, brand guy, marketing guy, tech guy, product guy. So yeah, that's definitely the people will benefit, because somebody needs to deploy the code, right? So the security. So at the moment, for example, our tech lead doesn't want to give any automation when it's coming to deployment. So definitely there will be people, but with less people.
Thank you so much. That was a great closing question. In fact, last month, Lenny's newsletter kind of commented on this. His prediction is every profession will become a product management profession. So it will be like, are you a tech person or a product person? You will keep on prompting the AI. You will kind of together build it. And then, of course, you will do your enhancements. So interesting prediction. And look, at least even the latest papers, AI is still what you call generative AI is still a prediction system. And it still doesn't have the human element of intelligence, certain things, which they're trying to build, but we are still far away from it. So, I think the human is always in the loop, but the role of the human might change. And in this case, as per Lenny, it's product manager. So we will have everyone product managers. Anyway, so this was such a great conversation I had. I really enjoyed it. We started from data, intuition, and the biases. Each of the panelists, I know them personally outside this setting. Like whenever I used to talk to Tony, he used to give me a lot of papers to read. So I used to dread having second follow-up conversation with him because I wouldn't have read that. Okay. But now I see where all that plays in. Okay, because especially with product management, right? I think everything has become so much prescriptive that it's very easy to kind of get tricked that you know everything. Because there's a framework, there's discovery, there's everything. And it's these conversations which lead us to thinking what more we have to kind of learn or explore. And today's was one such. Same with Sercan. Like, I think outside the setting, I really didn't know where all he applied all these frameworks. So finally, I get to understand this guy better. Okay. And Moe, as always, lot of knowledge, down-to-earth guy, And regardless, I think my biggest takeaway from this conversation is we as product professionals, or any professionals for that matter, there's a lot to learn. It's beyond the frameworks we know. The tools are only as good as the person who uses it. Amplitude is a powerful tool, okay, but we have learned certain aspects how to use it better. Okay, and I'm really thankful to Amplitude for this opportunity, and I hope you enjoyed today's event. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Just one last round of thank you. Can we get a big round of applause for the Amplitude team? We have Mustafa and also thank you to the Live team. One big round of applause for the One Live team for arranging this setup and for all the food. Nobody leaves from here without finishing the food. I'm not letting you leave till okay, so thank you all for coming in. We are here. Actually, we forgot. Let's do a signature. All of you come to the front. Sorry, come to the front. Let's take a quick picture, which is something which we do for every event. The bar is open. You can buy your, it's BYOB, it's buy your own booze, but if you want to grab a drink, please feel free to unwind. The counter is down there, and let's finish the food that's pending. Come to the front, please.